So hello and welcome again to my YouTube channel, not in Kansas anymore. And as promised, today's video is going to be about Social Security. Now, when I was researching this, I found lots of policies. Some that wanted to abolish the system altogether, others that wanted to privatize it and tie it to the stock market, some that wanted to cut the benefits by as much as 50% to try and save the system. I'm going to start by reading the preamble from this policy that I have here, and then I'll talk about some more facts. First off, it says Social Security is not an entitlement. It is a contractual promise forged through decades of hard work, paycheck contributions, and bipartisan support. It reflects a sacred agreement, not just between the government and the people, but among generations of Americans themselves. Today, the average retiree receives $1,800 per month, a modest sum that forms the backbone of financial security for roughly 60 million seniors. To allow this system to collapse or to decay through inaction would be a moral failure and a fiscal betrayal to the American citizen. Doing nothing is not an option. This plan affirms our duty to preserve and strengthen Social Security, ensuring it remains solvent, fair, and dignified for all Americans well into the future. Sounds like some lofty goals to me. But I'm going to read some of the bullet points from this, and I will put the whole policy as a PDF down in the description of the video so you can look it up. The first thing that it talks about that I wanted to point out was modernization of the payroll tax cap. Now, if you're not aware, right now the tax cap sits at $165,000 a year. So if you're making $165,000 a year, you're paying into the system. Anything above that amount is not taxed or paid into the system. So basically, a person making $1 million a year, $1 billion a year, is paying the same amount of taxes into that system as somebody making $165,000 a year. And what they want to do is they want to leave the cap. I'll just read it from here. Maintain the current payroll cap at $165,000, but reinstate the tax on earnings above $250,000. Using a donut hole approach, this ensures top earners contribute more without increasing taxes on the middle class. The reason for the cap initially was to protect small business owners. But what it has wound up doing is protecting the ultra wealthy. Now, I'm not for tax the rich or eat the rich or any of that stuff. I don't think we should penalize somebody for being wealthy. But I think they should pay their fair share into a system like Social Security. Okay, now the next one that I found very interesting was flexible retirement pathways for a changing workforce. It starts out by gradually adjusting the standard full retirement age from 67 to 68 for those that are currently under the age of 40. And then it talks about that life is not one size fits all, and neither is retirement. And so, therefore, Social Security should not be. Um, Simultaneously, it says we should expand early retirement across hardship exemptions for individuals in physically demanding or low life expectancy occupations. In other words, one of the studies I found that was done by Stanford and Harvard and a few other places was that they found that if a policeman works his entire career as law enforcement and retires at the age of 65, he's generally dead within 5 years. I think they actually said 75% die within 5 years. Now, that doesn't seem very fair to me. That's not a whole lot of time to enjoy your retirement. But what they also found was that ones that were able to retire at age 62 would live for 15 to 20 years. There's something about that last couple of years in that profession that puts such a toll on their mental and physical being that they don't have anything left for retirement. So this kind of makes sense to me. And then they put in this fact. In the 1940s, life expectancy was age 65, which was just under 14 years. Today, it's over 20, but it's not evenly distributed across social economic groups, which I just pointed out. The next bullet point that I found to be very interesting when comparing it to some of these other policies, it talks about when the system stabilizes and there's an actual surplus. I'll just read from the policy. Once the trust fund achieves annual surplus, all excess funds shall be invested conservatively back into the system, used to strengthen minimum benefits, prohibited from diversion or unrelated federal spending, reviewed annually with public oversight. And then it talks about increasing the minimum benefit. Right now, it's simply based on a calculation. You have to have 40 credits. Once you achieve the 40 credits, Social Security will take your top 30 years of wage earning. They will add them together. They'll get an average, and then that will be adjusted up or down based upon the time you retired. If it's at full retirement age, you'll get whatever that benefit comes out to. If you retire at 62, they reduce it by 30%. But this says that once the surplus is enough and the system has stabilized, the minimum benefit that would be paid out to all seniors would be 25% above the national poverty line. So the calculations would work like this. You would still take your 40 credits, take the best 30 years of earning, add it together, get an average. And if that average is below the poverty line, you would start at this level here, 25% above. One thing I would really like to point out is that this policy says that this will make Social Security completely solvent by the year 2040. It also claims, and according to their math and numbers, it works out right, that it would be completely solvent until 2090. So we're not just kicking the can down the road. We're fixing a problem. And I'm going to finish by just reading their closing statement. The expected outcomes of this policy are to extend the trust fund solvency well beyond 2090, protects full benefits for low and middle income retirees, increases fairness by scaling contributions from the wealthy, avoids benefit cuts, penalizations, or sudden tax hikes. Now, they talk about Social Security being 100% tax free, establishes a minimum benefit above the poverty line, builds a system that reflects modern economic realities. This plan keeps the promise of Social Security strong, not just for today's seniors, but future generations. It asks more from those who can afford it and nothing from those who can't. This is not a one-time fix or strategy. This is one that involves with responsibility and oversight, and with the American people's needs put first. Now, I don't think everything in this policy is right. I don't think everything in this policy is doable. Some of it I have questions about. But here's the facts. Social Security goes broke in 2033. Benefits will be cut at least a minimum of 30%. And that's a big, huge cut for a lot of people. And we've waited too long to fix this system to be able to do just one thing, like fixing the tax cap or scaling benefits or adjusting the retirement age. We're going to have to do more to fix it. Now, like I said, also, I will put this full policy as a PDF down in the description of this video. I encourage you to look at the PDF, read it, form your own opinions, leave me a comment. That's the most important thing. Like, share, and subscribe if you like the video. And I'll be back in a week, and we're going to talk personal income taxes. Goodbye.